Welcome back. My guest this segment is Anthony Dutton, CEO of Canex Capital Holdings, trading on the CSE under the symbol CNNX. Anthony, welcome back.
Always a pleasure to be here, James. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. I see your stock has got a little bit of fire underneath of it lately. What's happening?
Well, I'm sure you saw our news release from yesterday. It's something we've been working on for a while. We're extremely happy about having Gotham, obviously, as a strategic investor, and I think that has caught the market's imagination. And they know exactly what these guys have done before, and we're hoping to repeat it.
Sure. And what have they done before?
Well, as you probably know, they've done an amazing job with Ianthus. They're also a pretty significant force behind Kronos. And just generally speaking, they've got an excellent name in the cannabis sector as probably the smartest investors in this sector. We've been so impressed with their process, so impressed with them as a group and as individuals, and it's a real pleasure. And I don't want to get too superlative here, but an honor to be working with these guys. They're a fantastic group.
Awesome. Well, so now what? Now what are you going to do with all that money? You got $32 million in the bank from them. What were the terms of the financing?
So it was a convertible with a conversion price at $1.10, no prepay for the first year, and then some warrants at 150, 200, and 300% of the what's called the reservation price, which was 88 cents.
Okay, interesting. And so do you have your eye on any opportunities currently that you might devote some of that capital to?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've always maintained right from the get-go that our objective, and this is right from before we were even public, was to become a multi-state operator. And the MSO nomenclature has only really been popularized in the last couple of months, but we were always focused on being a multi-state operator. We were always focused on the processing, manufacturing, brand value add side of things. We have a number of things that we're looking at, and obviously Gotham bring a phenomenal pipeline of deal opportunity to the table as well. So, that will be, I think a marriage of both capital markets expertise and a marriage of, a very, very strong relationship and a very strong network of possible opportunity.
Sure. So being focused on the U.S., are you sensing that the U.S. is approaching a level of maturity in its cannabis build out at this point, or would you say it's still very early days?
Well, the U.S. is a kind of a curious character, if you will. I mean, Canada is further ahead, obviously, on the regulatory side and on the capital market side, and the U.S. is still a Schedule One drug, which impacts its ability to be managed, if you will, from a federal perspective. But operationally, we see things in the U.S. which are significantly further advanced than anything in Canada. And I think a good case in point is our operations in Washington. We have got a phenomenal foundation there. We've got very strong protocols, SOPs that can be plugged into any jurisdiction, any state, any country, anywhere. And, I think one of the things that Leo and his team in Washington have had to their advantage is they've just been at it for, quite some time. And that's allowed them to really, generate some expertise. We're seeing the same thing in Nevada, same thing in Arizona. I know you've done a recent tour through California. You probably saw some of that yourself.
Right.
So, overall, we see some very exciting, what I call operationally focused businesses in the U.S.
Wow,
And
fantastic.
ultimately, one of the things that I'm sure I mean, I hear you talking about it with some of your other guests. 2018 was what I call kind of a year of, almost bubble valuations, not a lot of substance to some of the companies that we all know. And we're already seeing, the pendulum swing the other way. And I believe that 2019, and I think that Gotham would agree with this, 2019 is going to be a year where the investors, both institutional and retail, start to look at the operating fundamentals of the sector and of obviously of individual businesses. Because ultimately, you have to be able to survive as a business. You have to be able to be profitable, support yourself, and ultimately that's going to be how the good companies are going to be measured.
Sure. So right now we're talking, is it 17 states are legal medically?
Oh, no, I think it's a 29 or 30. It's hard to keep
Okay.
track. I know Illinois and Michigan just came on recently, and the next one I believe is New Jersey. So, ultimately is going to be all 50, I believe. The other statistic, which is kind of almost more interesting, is that 85% of the American population live in a state where there is some form of cannabis regulation, whether it be medical or recreational.
Hmm. So, which states excite you more than others?
Well, we obviously like California because it's so big, but we're also very cautious in California. I believe that California is going to be a company maker for many companies. It's also got the potential to be a company breaker because if you kind of go down a rabbit hole or pick the wrong strategy or allocate capital and too much capital too quickly, you could find it, be problematic. So we like California a lot, but we're, proceeding with caution, as it were. We also like Nevada. We like Arizona a great deal. Florida is another state that's got a lot of appeal to us. Some of the asset values there are pretty significant. And then the Northeast, Massachusetts, New York, these are always going to be popular states simply because of the population base.
Right. So, what about the remaining 20 some odd states? Is there any indication that they are going to jump on the medical bandwagon and maybe the rec too?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just inevitable. I mean, ultimately, it's always, in any business, cannabis is no different. Follow the money, follow the jobs. We saw in New York, for example, where the governor of the state, kind of accelerated their legalization initiatives because he realized that he was going to be losing, tax dollars as people went across state lines to buy something in dispensaries in Massachusetts, for example. I think it's really going to be nationwide sooner than we think.
Okay. And what's the revenue picture looking like for Canex this year?
It's looking pretty strong. So if you look at our operating business, the one that we own the assets of through our holding company, that could be sort of in the mid 30s US dollars of revenue that flows through to Canex through a holding company structure. So our revenue should be, in the region of sort of 10 to 12 million from Washington alone. And obviously, as we plug in additional states, the revenue profile could improve significantly from there.
Right. Great. So, tell me, what in Washington? What's the most popular product that you supply?
Well, we certainly sell a lot of the Marmas, which are jelly. I think you might even have seen them or at least had some. We sell a lot of those. We launched a new line of mints, which are being doing very, very well. Vapes, both disposable and otherwise, do extremely well. We do see a swing towards what we call the derivative products, and that's no different in Washington than everybody else, everywhere else. As new demographics come into the market, new consumers, you're going to see, I think, more products on the derivative side going off the shelves than you are going to see straight flower. Flower will always have an appeal, obviously, but for people who don't smoke currently, it's unlikely if they're going to become a new consumer, they're going to start smoking something. So, vapes, edibles, chocolates, that sort of thing is very, very popular. It was interesting. I was at the MJ Biz conference in Las Vegas this week, and you walk around the floor and virtually everything was about the derivatives market, whether it be THC or CBD. People are selling equipment, they're selling packaging, they're selling product, they're selling all kinds of things, and I would say 80% of it is focused on the derivatives market.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So now, what are you hearing about federal deprohibition in the United States? Is that making any progress?
It depends on who you ask. We hear a lot of discussion about it. I mean, I do not have a beeline into any federal bureau or any federal discussion. So I'm not, I just have my opinion. I think Trump in many ways, as much as, he's a pretty, controversial figure, he's actually, a very powerful force in favor of federal deschedulization or federal legalization because he's a big believer in states' rights. In the midterms, that we lost Pete Sessions, who was quite a big obstacle to any kind of federal initiatives. And then obviously Jeff Sessions, no relation to Pete Sessions, has stepped down as AG. So I think that, with the overwhelming, and I say overwhelming at 65% of the American population, support legal cannabis in one way, shape, or form, all of those data points bodes very, very well for, I think, it being rescheduled and federally legalized in some way, shape, or form, maybe not in this administration, but certainly in the next.
Hmm. Awesome. And what about the States Act in the Farm Bill that we're hearing so much about? How's that going to impact Canex?
Well, at this point, it won't have a great deal of impact because that's primarily around CBD. But at the same time, Canex is like most companies, realizing that CBD is a huge opportunity, and we're looking at a number of opportunities in this area as well. So obviously, if that passes, that's only going to accelerate, our interest and everybody's interest. So for the time being, not an immediate impact, but longer term, as a part of our larger, more expansive strategy, absolutely will have an impact.
Well, that's great, Anthony. Well, it sounds like you're doing really well with your new investing partner there. Let's leave it there. We'll catch up with you soon and come out for a visit. Thanks very much for joining me
I
today.
will be there probably next week, so hopefully more to talk about then. So we'll see
That's
you
great.
hopefully midweek.
I'll look forward to it.
Okay, thanks a lot.